By 712 AD, Islam came to India. Many people are not aware of that. We only think of Muhammad of Ghar. A young man called Qasim, at the age of 16 or 17, he was asked by the Caliph at the time in Babylon, of the Umayyad Caliphate, to go and take over Sindh, not because they wanted to conquer a land or convert a people, but because there was a flourishing trade between the Arab world and India at that time. And the then king of Sindh, the local chieftain called Dahir, he was not able to control the pirates. There was enormous piracy. The ships were always in peril. So the Caliph ordered him to go and sort out the problem. This young man came and simply took over. That's how Islam first came to India, in Sindh, in 712 AD. 90 years after the Prophet's famous journey from Mecca, in the first century after Islam has arisen. You take every single religious persuasion, Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism, Sikhism, they all took roots in India. There is no land which has seen so much diversity and yet been able to synthesize so beautifully. It's incredible that we have so many languages coexisting. All of us are so familiar with that we don't really understand the marvel of it. Look at your northern neighbor here in Canada. You just have one more language. And that is the French-speaking people in Quebec. Every other year there is a threat of secession. Every 5 years they say there must be a referendum, we want to go out, and then we'll come back, some other accommodation adjustment. You go to a tiny country like Belgium, where there are just two languages. For weeks on end, they're trying to figure out who should be the Prime Minister because of the linguistic problem in Belgium right now. We think of our southern neighbor, small little neighbor, which is probably no bigger than some of our bigger districts, Sri Lanka. They had just one more language apart from Sinhala, and for 25 years there was bloodshed and murder and mayhem of unprecedented magnitude. Tens of thousands of people, including presidents and prime ministers, perished. And only now, after a bloody battle, there's some kind of an uneasy calm. It's remarkable that we are able to actually accommodate all these. Of course, there are going to be problems. There are going to be arguments. We are, after all, the argumentative Indians, as I must have said. We love to shout, we love to be boisterous. We have a strong point of view, very emotional. That's our right. But we also know how to synthesize, how to reconcile. Because we have built a nation for 5,000 years. China is the only country comparable to India in that sense. 5,000 years of continuing history and civilization. But China is vastly different in many respects. 85% of Chinese people are Han Chinese, just one ethnic group, with one language, Mandarin. Only 15% of the people have other languages and other ethnic groups. India is not like that. Despite that, it's an incredible tribute. I want you to celebrate this, because it's so easy for us to take India for granted, just like it's so easy to take the United States for granted. The success of it, the innovation of it, the greatness of it, the institutionalization of great ideals, the foundation of a republic on ideals and the foundation of ideals. In many ways, your mother country and your adopted country, both are extraordinary symbols of civilization. Both are unique, unmatched, and I'm saying it from the bottom of my heart. We don't have to be jingoistic to love our country, but we also have to celebrate the enormity of what has been accomplished in 5,000 years. And even in the past 60 years, with all our failings, of course there are many, many failings, we know that all too well. And some of you already talked about it today. But please remember the successes. The remarkable success of federalism in India, with so many languages, 18 plus languages. And federalism has matured enormously in the country. The states are now coming to their own. The challenge is the next era of federalism, to transfer power to the people at the grassroots level. We'll accomplish that too. There will be problems. There will be many people who will stop us because their vested interests will be affected. But that will not come in the way. Eventually we'll reach there. The question is how fast. So in that perspective, we are now at an incredibly important juncture in our history. Kalyan made a point at the beginning. We started out with 2% of the world's GDP. There's something called global GDP. Our share was 2%. For centuries, our share was 25%. Until about 18th century, our share was 25%. We came down to 2%. After 63 years of the journey, we ran very hard to remain where we were. We still remain at 2%. That's not something satisfactory. But why we are ebullient is, we came down to 1% by 1991. It was actually much worse. We retraced some of the steps. We recovered lost ground. We now came back to 2%, and we believe there's a realistic chance of fulfilling our destiny. The Emerging Markets Forum, a very serious forum of economists and thinkers across the world, they made an assessment that if India does a few right things, and this is important, if India does a few right things, by 2039, in just about 29 years' time, less than one human being's productive working life, by 2039, India could well emerge as the second largest economy in the world, next only to China. It looks like China is now unstoppable. Well, let's rejoice. They are, of course, our rivals. We have competition. There is envy. There is also some amount of bitterness on account of 62. But at this point of time, it looks like China is unstoppable. The challenge is, can we create a momentum to make India unstoppable? It is tantalizingly close. The opportunity is there as never before. Even when Lok Satta movement was founded, we didn't have the kind of optimism that we have today, or the opportunity that we have today. I remember when I first went to Britain sometime in 1995, I had a Lebanese driver, chauffeur. I was in St. James's Court Hotel in London, and there was no parking place in the central London area, and I had a lot of government business at the time to go around, and therefore there was no parking place. So this chap told me, "Sir, just don't worry, I have this mobile phone." I never saw a mobile phone before that. I have this mobile phone, and wherever I drop you for a meeting, after you finish the meeting, from a landline, just make a call to this, and I'll be parked somewhere, I'll come there in 2 minutes. And for those 4 days that I was there, every day was true to his word, and I marveled at this. At one level, I was full of admiration that that nation could give so much of convenience to people, that technology could become a tool to help a chauffeur, to help a person traveling, a businessman, an administrator, anybody. I was also, to be truthful, full of envy. I was thinking, when will my country come to a stage when telephones are available to chauffeurs and street hawkers? Because by that time, if you wanted a telephone, I wanted a telephone in India, it was one hell of a problem. I still remember in 1984 when Mr. N.T. Ramarao came here to the United States seeking investments in India. Some people actually came to India at that time. One of them met me. He said, "Sir, I established a factory in Adilabad," and he told me in graphic detail the problems of communication because there was not even a telephone. How people had to go, how it took 3-4 days to simply communicate. So it was a real problem. When I was thinking this in 1995,